Thank you for watching our YouTube videos. My name is Matt Marcellino. I'm an attorney here at Marcellino & Tyson. Our law firm handles a bunch of different stuff, including family law, civil litigation, business litigation, estate planning, and so forth. But today we're talking about a family law subject, which is alimony. And sitting in front of me is Andria Marquez, who is an attorney here at our office, and she primarily handles just family law matters. So she's going to help me understand what is alimony. So Andria, hello.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
Oh, fantastic. Of course, do me a favor. So we get a lot of questions when folks come in on family law consults, many questions, right? One of them that is very common is, can I have alimony or do I owe alimony, right? So in general, what is alimony so people can at least get a foundation of the understanding?
Yeah, absolutely. So alimony is basically just, we're talking about money that is going to be paid from one spouse to the other spouse if there is a financial need from one of the spouses.
Okay, who would that, so when you say that there needs to be I hate using the same word twice in a sentence, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So when you say one party needs, right, financial support, what is the analysis there? What are you thinking about? How are you determining that they need something, right? So one spouse is receiving money because they need it. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, we're looking at a budget for them, basically, right? So we're saying, now that these two people are no longer living in the same home and they're going to have two separate homes, we want to look at a budget for them. So the person that we're doing the analysis of for the financial need, what we'd be looking at is, do they have any income? And what are their expenses? And at the end of the month, do they have enough money to meet those expenses? And if they don't, that's a financial need.
Gotcha. So essentially you've got two, mom and a dad maybe, no longer together, right? Let's say mom is the lower earning party, right? And you take her income, she makes X amount of dollars per month, the gross amount, right? And you back out taxes, I presume?
Yes.
Okay. And then you're like, okay, so now you have your net, your leftover dollars. And then this budget you're talking about, is that where you go in and you look at how much is the mortgage, how much is the utility bills, gas in the car, holiday expenditures?
Yeah, absolutely. We look at both household expenses, so those are things that you're mentioning, like the mortgage, the utilities, the gas, and then we look at individual expenses too. So those would be things like clothing expenses, going out to eat at restaurants, and if we're talking about a mother and children, we may be looking at expenses for the kids as well.
Correct. Okay, understood. So essentially it's more of a math problem.
That's
you have
right.
Total amount of income, then you back out all reasonable and necessary expenses, mortgage, utilities, insurance, and so forth. And then at the end of the day, if our hypothetical mom has money left over, does she have a need?
No.
Okay.
And so there wouldn't be alimony in that situation.
Okay. But if mom in our hypothetical is in the red, a negative number, would that be a need, a financial need?
Yes, and that's where alimony comes into play. But then on the flip side, we have to also look at the other parties' income and expenses to see if there's an ability to pay, because alimony is not just about the need, but it's also about there being a financial ability to pay for that need on the other side.
So is the math problem, right, is it really the same for the other spouse?
Yes.
Okay.
So we look at a budget for each of them. We do that same analysis. What is their income, minus all taxes and those other expenses? Then what is their net income? We look at the same exact expenses that they're paying in every month. And then we look at the end, is there a positive number after they pay for all of those expenses with their own income? Do they have money left over at the end of the month? If they do, that makes them a supporting spouse such that they could pay alimony
To the other spouse who has a financial need, who's in the negative.
Right.
So essentially you need one spouse to be in the positive and then one spouse to be in the negative to be able to get over that hurdle as to awarding alimony?
That's right.
Okay. So the spouse that's receiving the alimony, is there a term that we call these folks, right?
The dependent spouse
Dependent spouse, right on. And then the person that might be paying the money,
would be the
amount.
supporting spouse.
Right on.
Right.
Okay.
So in order to have alimony, You need a dependent spouse and a supporting spouse. If you have both of those things and the dependent spouse has a financial need and the supporting spouse has an ability to pay, then that's where a judge could potentially award alimony.
Okay. So if we did our math problem, the budget you're referring to, the income minus expenses, right? If both parties were in the negative, is there going to be an alimony payment?
There wouldn't be, because there would be no money from which to take
Right on.
for alimony.
Okay. And if both parties were in the positive, they had money at the end of the month, would they be receiving alimony?
There shouldn't be,
Okay.
because there has to be a financial need in order for there to be alimony.
Great. Now, then thank you for that. The other fun question that we get, and it's a tough one for lawyers. We can explain the alimony process, which you just did perfectly, but how long might I be paying alimony, or how long might I be receiving alimony? That's a question we get, right?
Right, and that's a very good question. I think the reason it becomes difficult for lawyers to answer is because this is an area where it's so discretionary, right? If you're going into a courtroom, the judge has discretion as to not only the amount of alimony to award, and we can talk about that more, but also about the duration. However, I like to say that the rule of thumb and what we're typically seeing here in Mecklenburg County specifically is about half the duration of the marriage. So if we're talking about in our context of mom and dad, and let's say they were married for 10 years, we might be talking about around 5 years of alimony.
Okay.
And there are other things that you can look to kind of affect that. When I said it's discretionary, there are other factors that a judge can look at.
Right. So when you say roughly half the length of the marriage, rule of thumb, most certainly not a rule
Right.
here at least in North Carolina, the Mecklenburg County area. But at the same time, when you say roughly half the length of the marriage of alimony, is it 5 years of alimony, or is there another form of support that might be considered therein as well inside that same amount of duration of time?
Oh, sure. So there's a temporary alimony, which is post-separation support that we may be looking at. So immediately after the parties separate, you might be looking at post-separation support, which is something you can go to court for on a temporary basis if you need support, but we're not quite ready for an alimony trial, which here in Mecklenburg County can be a year out after you file a lawsuit.
Yeah. So the post-separation support, when we also call that a PSS,
Yes.
that is the analysis roughly the same compared to the alimony analysis we just described?
Yeah, it's roughly the same in terms of figuring out how much support is due and whether there's a dependent spouse and a supporting spouse. All of that is the same. The duration would be different because it's just temporary. Usually, what we're seeing is that will last until there's an alimony trial, or some judges will put a time limit on post-separation support, like of a year, to give you like a Band-Aid.
Gotcha. So essentially when we said you're going to receive alimony for roughly 5 years, it's really you're receiving spousal support between the combination of possibly PSS and alimony for a total amount of time of 5 years, i.e. half the length of the marriage.
That's right.
Okay, so it's not 5 years in addition to whatever you might have received in PSS, unless the judge orders so.
Right. We're talking about total support. So
Gotcha.
between that temporary support, PSS, and alimony, what we're seeing most of the time is half the duration of the marriage. And that's not just in court, but that's also, how we're crafting settlement agreements.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that was very helpful. Because it's always difficult to explain that to people on the fly or in a consultation, especially when you don't have their financials yet. But at least they understand the process on how to maybe calculate that possibly at home before they come to an attorney, or if they come to an attorney at all. But it is a question that we typically get, so I think it was very helpful to explain that on our YouTube channel. And I really appreciate you sitting in on this one. Did you have fun?
Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you again for tuning in to our channel. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, obviously reach out to either us or any other attorney here in North Carolina that practices family law to answer any additional questions you have. And otherwise, thank you very much, and look forward to our next videos, which might also be a continuation of the alimony discussion because there's so much more. But thank you.